This week, we're going back to school. High school woodworking teacher Tim Zavacki takes us on a tour of his classroom located in Northwest New Jersey. Let's get started. I'm Carl. Welcome to Saturday Shop Tour. If you're new here, be sure to say hello in the comments section below.
All right, so before I actually start my tour, give you a little bit of background on what happened back in March when the coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic started, and we had to vacate the building. Initially, it was we were going to go on a 2-week break, and then it got extended, and then it got extended, and it brought it out to the end of the school year. So a lot of the kids' projects that they were working on were never finished. And there is a lot of stuff that is still out, and there's some things that are that haven't been put away for the end of the school year. But there is still a lot of evidence of things that were, the kids were working on, but they just never finished. And it's unfortunate that some of the seniors never got to finish their kind of like, final project that I had them going with and working and planning out. I've been teaching here at this school for 5 years. This is going to be the start of my 6th year at this school. I've been teaching since 2001, and before I taught woodshop, I taught graphic arts, desktop publishing, web page design, engines, automotive service. I taught Excel. I taught one woodworking course at my former school. I taught energy and power technology. And I also taught like an introduction to technology education course. And so, I ran a gamut in different things that I've taught already. And here at this school, I don't only teach woodworking, I teach foundations of electronics and then foundations of civil engineering. So I teach primarily 4 different courses here at the school. But I am the instructor for the upper level woodworking courses, which is woods manufacturing 2, and advanced topics in wood manufacturing. So those are the courses that I teach in this shop. And, like I said, I'm going to give you a tour now. So we have a main door here where the kids come in. We have our safety shut-off switches, our power source. We have hand sanitizer now because of the pandemic. Safety glasses, I don't know how that's going to work this year. But safety glasses are, we have basically a little library section, if you will. It's all loaded up with, modern woodworking stuff, wood magazines, woodsmith. I think there's some fine woodworking stuff in here that we can utilize as resources. We have American Woodworker, Woodworker Journal. So these are all magazines and all documents that we've gotten either as donations or surplus from the library, and the kids can page through them looking for ideas. Our main whiteboard area here, and we use this for basic instruction. We have a projector that we can do presentations with, show safety videos. We can show diagrams, things like that, right on the whiteboard there, and it actually makes really nice work for having a space here that is good for instruction. Basic instructor storage. There's another teacher that does teach in this room, and so they share a space with me in there. This is basically some of our hand tools. It is fairly neat and organized for what it was from when we did leave in March, but you can see we have some measuring tools and things like that there. Okay. Some basic screwdrivers, and we have some wood burners up top for putting names on projects. Some pliers and miscellaneous, crimping tools and things like that. Hammers, mallets. Every once in a while I need that random nut driver, so they're on the bottom there. We have some utility chisels that we use for scraping glue and cleaning stuff up if we need to. Nail sets on the left there. Some generic or general saws that we use depending on what we're doing. I mean, they don't get really much use in this lab, but we do have them for that occasional time when you need it. We actually have this little Dremel drill press that we use for like micro drilling. So if we have some really small drill bits that we need to do for either scroll sawing or putting some screws in, we can use this micro drill press, and it's actually pretty handy, and the kids actually like using it for that. Some basic planes that we use, but they're not fine-tuned the way they need to be. Scrapers there for getting glue and stuff that's curing, clean stuff up there. And then we have a miscellaneous pile of files and things like that too. Some of the other things, we just keep some other miscellaneous tools on the bottom, like we have some Craig jigs, our dovetailing jig that we don't keep out, but it's there. Miscellaneous routers, some clamps, the iron and angle grinders and things that just don't get used all the time. We keep them down there. We also have some a nice selection of chisels for cleaning up joints and doing some other things like that. So that's all there too. So that's basically our hand tool cabinet that we keep all of our hand tools in. We are pretty fortunate. We have a really nice storage area down here, and you can see that there's a bunch of lumber, clamps. You can never have enough clamps. So especially with high school kids, they're always clamping and unclamping and doing different things. So these are some of the projects the kids were working on. They were working on shaker tables. They could have made them out of pine, poplar, or oak, and they could have put a design on their aprons. They do some basic joinery here. All this joinery is cut on the table saw and the router, so we show them how to do that. And we have some vertical storage for plywood up here. We have a CNC router in the other room, so we utilize this for that, and just basic material processing and for cabinet work and things like that. So we have all of our classes are stored in this little contraption here. So you can see this is how it was left back in March. Kids were working on the lathe, kids were working on tables. So they had some spindle turnings there that they were working on. Some kids had, laminated bowls that they are working on. Okay, some blanks for laminated bowls here. Once again, another bowl blank there. Some kids were working on segmented turning. They had some segments, glued up and rings made and everything. So, it is kind of sad that a lot of these kids didn't get to see some of this stuff. Okay, here's another segmented turning starting there. We were also working on candy dispensers, so I'll show you some other ones of those in another spot. So these were some of the candy dispensers that were being made. And then once again, here's some more bowl blanks that were being worked on, and tabletops and things like that are down there. I know it looks like it's a mess, but I guess if you're in a wood shop, why would it be any different? No matter where you're at. Here's some more candy dispensers that were being worked on, and here's another spot or another shot of those. Some of the ideas that the kids found online, and they were trying to mimic those to produce and then sell them as a fundraiser for the program. So we do have a sink facility in here, soap, eye wash station. We keep the glue brushes over here off to the side. We have a hand washing station for for the students. They can use the dryer, they can use paper towels and things like that. We do have some basic cleaning supplies here, so they can use the brushes and the brooms. In this cabinet right here, we keep a lot of our hand power tools. So we have routers in here. Multi-tool, I think there's a multi-tool up there in that bag. There's a circular saw in that box, some pneumatic nailers, jigsaws, or drill drivers, sanders, things like that. Biscuiting tools down at the bottom, belt sanders, and then we have, I think this is a trim router in there. So that's where we keep a lot of the tools and the machinery, hand machinery, power equipments that the kids will use. You know, got to clean up sometimes, so brooms, and then the vacuum over here. This is our finishing room. This is kind of left how it was when we left in March. So these are some lathe blanks that I've harvested, and some different types of woods that I've harvested for the kids either to use or for me to use, depending on what they're working on. You never know, a kid will come up with an idea and they'll say, hey, I want to turn this, or I want to make this project, and I can say I have a piece of wood for you to use. So a lot of this wood was just taken from logs and then milled down, and you can see that up there. General storage for a lot of supplies that we keep around in the shop. So sandpaper, overflow sandpaper, screws, fasteners, extra hand tools, glues, any of that kind of stuff is kept in these lower storage cabinets, which is nice to have. So we have a laser engraver. So this is some maple that the kids were laser engraving. And those, believe it or not, every one of these is already laser engraved. So there's probably tons of hours in on that for that project. So coming over here, we have a nice selection of scroll saws for the kids to use. And our Dewalt 788s, which are really nice. They actually hold up really good to student use. We do have these things figured out in terms of maintenance with the brushes and the switches and, you know, all different types of things. We have extra parts for these now. We have 10 of these in the entire department. So no matter what room the kid will go to or student will go to, they will see the same scroll saw if they're depending on what class they take. So they're getting trained on all the same equipment. Then just some buckets for them to put the little scraps in and when they're cutting. This was a display case that one of my students was working on. It's solid maple, frame and panel, construction. This was going to be the sides. As you can see, they already pre-drilled in all the shelf brackets, both sides. This was going to be the front panel. This student will come back this year, so I will see the student this year again. So hopefully he can finish this and get that finished, which is nice to see that through completion. Now, we don't supply any of the glass, so the student will have to supply their own glass for shelves and the doors and stuff, but we will supply them with all the wood that they need. We have our drill presses right here, 2 drill presses. These are probably the most underutilized machines that we do have here at the school. The students don't really use them that much, but the full potential of a drill press is pretty good, but just the students don't really use them. Miscellaneous drill bits and things like that. Forstner bits in the back and twist drills in the front here. And then some smaller clamps that we keep on the bottom. On the bottom there, drill press vise on the floor. I don't know why that's there, but. And then we have our router table. Basically anything you need for the router table is mounted somewhere to the table. So you have all your push blocks, jigs and fixtures, wrenches, screwdrivers, anything you need there. And then all of our bits and stuff are on the bottom. So a lot of this stuff was not put away by the end of the school year. So it was one of those things where this is how it was left. We do have a nice spindle sander. We just got 2 new spindles for this because some of them are bent. Here's probably my favorite section of the shop is our lathes. We do have 3 of the same lathes. These are the 3520s, and the students get to do their turnings on these things. They're made by Powermatic, and this is just a awesome piece of equipment, you know, that Powermatic makes. And there's a lot of potential with these. I basically mounted some magnetic things on the bottom, so all the tools are located underneath the machine, not behind it, so that nothing can get tangled up while the students are working. So those are our lathes here. The lathe work also comes with this cabinet, a bunch of face plates, tools, chucks, different types of things for the lathe that you would need. Everything is mounted or is located over here in this back cabinet. So, you know, we have Nova chucks and all this other stuff, and we have a variety of different jaws that we can put on the chucks and use for different bowls or different turnings that the students are working on. Coming over here, we have our sharpening station. We will sharpen the lathe tools right here on the actual Sorby system, which is a system that I really like. And that is, if you're not familiar with this, it has everything preset on here, so you just set it and go, and you can change the belts, and it is a nice system for the students to use. It's very, very simple. So that is our sharpening system, and then that is our lathe setup area. The nice thing about having a shop is being able to take and break down large pieces of material. So we have our panel saw right here, which is a really nice piece of equipment to have in a high school shop, because you get those pieces of plywood for projects, and then you want to break it down, and you know, so that you can rip it to different sizes on the table saw. So we have our panel saw right here, and it fits really nice underneath these windows. And in the back, you actually can see our dust collector, which is a very powerful unit, and we really get some good airflow with the dust removal with the actual unit and the machinery in here. So all the dust removal does pipe through this, I guess, trunk line, and then it all comes down through from the equipment over there, which is, you know, which is really good. And we can isolate some piece of equipment, and we can turn on, you know, other areas and go from there. And you can see some of the joints have been retaped, which has really made a difference in making sure that we can trap and get all the dust removed from the equipment. So it is nice to have that. And like I said, the panel saw is there. It fits perfectly in that little area. And then over here we have a miter saw that we use. It's pretty flexible, you know, for instruction purposes. We can use that and move it around the room depending on what we're doing. The nice thing about that is that it's on a table, and it is, you know, able for movement and positioning depending on what you're cutting and working with. Underneath that, we keep all of our clamping calls for, like, you know, going up against the wood and the clamps, and we use them for a lot of our cutting boards and stuff like that. The one neat thing is that we have, or that I got, was, this is for me. This was actually oak. I believe it's white oak. This is from the 1940s, probably before World War II. This flooring was made. I got this. I'm intending on making a table out of it for a tabletop. So that's there. So you can see I got some nice piece of that. So that's really nice material right there. To transition back to the panel saw, you can see behind there a lot of our old jigs and fixtures and patterns and things like that that are, you know, that kind of live there. Some miscellaneous things that we use for cutting miters and different other jigs on there. Some scrap wood. All of our scrap wood does get burned, which is nice, so it doesn't end up in a landfill somewhere. We do have exterior access, which you see. You can see outside the school. This is a piece of holly. That piece of holly was a tree that I cut down probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it's been drying, and we had a sawmill come in last year, and they milled that up. So that's a nice piece of 6/4 holly. We do have another miter saw. This is our sliding miter saw. The sliding miter saw is basically over here for breaking down long boards, and we keep that pretty, locked in over here so that we can use this. And the nice spot for this is it's right next to our wood storage room. And our wood storage room is right here. We're going to take a quick look into here. So you can see we don't really throw away much scrap wood, okay? But what we like to do is we really just try to reuse what we can, and these materials are not cheap, and they don't get any cheaper. So, and then looking over here is kind of the nice area of our table saws. We have 2 SawStops. We actually have 3 SawStops in the entire department. The one on the left is our newer one that has usually a standard blade, for basic ripping and teaching the kids how to use it for ripping and cross-cutting. And you can see our cross-cutting sled right here and miscellaneous storage in these cabinets. This SawStop is our original SawStop to the department, and we usually keep a dado blade on there. But a lot of times we do change it out and put on a standard blade also, so that we can utilize that, and we actually can have multiple processing being done at the same time, and the kids are spaced out. All of the tables, the nice thing about the tables are they are pretty much aligned, so it is pretty much flat. The only downfall is you can't slide the one on the left. You can't slide that fence all the way over to the blade on the right. It doesn't align that well, but it is good enough to help you support stock depending on what you're doing. So we have our sander, our belt and disc sander that gets a lot of use right there. So that works, the kids use that. And then we have our joiner. Nice thing about this Powermatic joiner is that it does have the helical head on it. And the helical head does make a big difference in joining there. We have our drum sander, which also gets a lot of use here. This is a 2550 SuperMax, which I actually love. This is a great machine. It is a single drum, which is unfortunate because the dual drums are really nice. At my former school that I was at, we had a dual drum, and it was beautiful because you could put 80 grit on one, put 100 grit or 120 on the back, and that was nice. But let me tell you, this machine, it is a lifesaver to have, especially with doing cutting boards and working in the classroom, doing tabletops and trying to really smooth some things up. Looking over here, we have 2 bandsaws. This is the smaller of the 2 bandsaws, so I guess this is a standard 14-inch bandsaw, Powermatic. And we keep everything near it. So you got your cross-cutting sled and you got your fence over there. And this is an oldie and goodie, oldie but goodie really. So this is a, as you see the sign, it says resawing only, but that sign got printed too big and we just kind of went with it. But this is a 12/6 blade, which we use on it. This used to be in the agriculture shop or in the butcher program. They used to cut up cows and meat on this. And so this machine used to be used to break down cows and meat for the butcher program when that was here. That was a long time ago. So this is a fairly old machine. It's a model 81, okay, Powermatic. And this is the best machine, I think, bandsaw that I've ever used. And you can see how the juice would run down this tray. And, it is, it is amazing that this used to cut up, meat at one time. But we got it here at our shop, and we absolutely love it. We do use it for resawing. We try to keep a really aggressive blade on it, so usually 3 or 4 teeth per inch. We usually make we just write it on there on a piece of tape and tape it on. This is a 3/4 inch standard blade. We don't really buy resawing blades because they're just too much money. And so this is just a general, really wide blade that we put on here, and it does the job. I mean, it's not gonna be dead straight, but we can work around that. And then that is about a 12.5 inch clearance, so we can resaw some pretty wide stock on there, which is really nice in terms of having that for the kids to have access to. And then finally, we have over here, we have our planer. You can't see it, but there is a helical head underneath here. We were gonna get rid of this machine. We were gonna look to get a new machine, and the guy that does all of our maintenance just talked us out of it. It does have 6-inch capacity, and it does have the helical head on it, and let me tell you, this thing is awesome. It really is a nice piece of equipment to use with the kids and to get some planing done. So these were Jeeps that we manufactured, and with the our manufacturing process, all the kids made these, and we were intending on selling them, but with the coronavirus, things just didn't work out, and here we are. We're stuck with all of these Jeeps, and we're trying to figure out what to do with them. We'll put the wheels on them and go from there. So that's it. All right, so that was basically my shop in terms of what we do here at school and all the equipment that we have and some of the projects that we've worked on. And we have a pretty nice enrollment. We usually run anywhere between 18 and 20 woodshop classes any given year. That includes all the levels of woodworking and wood manufacturing, so it could be anywhere from, you know, woods 1 all the way up to advanced woods. Some years, you know, the enrollments fluctuate depending on what the kids are requesting, but we do have a pretty involved or successful program here at the school. You know, it is nice that we have the access to this, you know, different capabilities here, and to have all this stuff in one room is really nice. And we have a really nice size room, as you can see, and we have a nice setup with everything. So this room has gone through a lot of redesigns, and right now we figured out that the way it's set up right now is pretty consistent, and it does help us work through a lot of the things that the kids have and a lot of the access to the equipment for processing. Once again, my name is Tim Zavacki, and I'm a high school teacher here in Northwest New Jersey in Warren County, and I teach woodworking. All right, thanks again. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and like to see more like it, please consider subscribing. We feature a new maker shop tour every Saturday.